Well, so it's a nice day outside. I'm just going to make a quick video specifically about the old woman being trampled by a police horse. Okay. I'm sure I'm sure most of you have seen it at this point. Now, I'm sure I have not, it's not that I'm sure. I have no reason to believe that the police did that on purpose, but I can certainly, how would you word this? It would be reasonable to assume that an accident like that, let's say we'll call it an accident, could happen if you're going to haul ass into a group of people on horseback. Uh, you know, that's not it's not that hard to foresee that happening. And I'm trying to be very careful with my words here just because it's 2022, and everything is terrorism. Criticizing criticizing thug police trampling an old woman with a walker with a horse, criticizing that happening in another country, it might be terrorism. I mean, hell, I own a couple trucks. I disagree with the Canadian government. I mean, that might be enough to qualify you as a terrorist. But we're to that point. I mean, it is all the shit that if any of you know people that came from former Soviet Eastern Bloc, communist type scenarios in their past, they'll tell you what they see, and that they'll tell you this is not the path to freedom. It's fucking open authoritarianism. I can't even believe it. I have a normalcy bias towards most people not understanding what's going on and thinking this is normal because I've been, let's say, aware of how would you put it, the conspiratorial view of events. I've been aware of that. I don't always say that that's the only possible explanation for every event in the world, but the conspiratorial view of history versus the this is all just happening uh, seems to be a lot more accurate at this point. But I have a normalcy bias towards, if that's the correct terminology, towards I'm assuming that the norm is always going to be that no one figures out this is wrong. I even have to snap myself out of that because it's clear. There's massive protests all over the planet. But the shit that I saw with the poor old woman collarbone busted, and that's not an easy bone to just grow back together. Especially if you're an old woman with a walker, get the fuck out of here. That's the kind of stuff that I mean, we burnt cities down because a policeman uh, held George Floyd down with his knee and then he died. Imagine if he ran over him with a fucking horse, Jack. A horse. Where, I mean, is that not a symbol of state power and colonialism and all the triggering shit that people are psychologically conditioned to think is an action of an evil government? It's right there. I'm literally, as an American, as a Texan, watching this in Canada, speechless, disgusted. I'm disgusted. I'm speechless at some points because it doesn't do it enough justice to just be like, oh yeah, they ran over somebody with a horse again, or whatever. And the only upside that I can see is there being Klaus Schwab's number one MVP right now is Trudeau. Trudeau's the one that's like, I'm going to carry this fucking New World Order ball all the way down the field, no matter what, no matter the optics, no matter how bad it looks, no matter how overt, obvious tyranny it is. He's just going to do it. You watch Trudeau in Parliament and they'll ask him a question. Well, they can't speak to each other because of their weird parliamentary system. But, Mr. Speaker, will you ask Trudeau why he wants to beat women and children and why he's an asshole? And the answer is, I mean, has nothing to do with with the question. Like the man can just tell you a word salad with a smile, and that's an official answer from a prime minister. You know, hey Trudeau, all the other countries of all the other Commonwealth, the United Kingdom, the progenitor of this whole global Commonwealth system, has gotten rid of their rules. All these other European countries, all the liberal-minded people always say, well, we need to be more like Europe. Okay, well, they're lifting all their COVID restrictions. Now what? No, can't do it. Like I'm literally just like dumbfounded. You know, just wanted to make a video just for the sake of uh, being on the record that I oppose the trampling of the woman with the horse. And you know, I go back and forth looking at it, and I think to myself, okay, they're arresting everybody. Are we losing, or are we winning the optics war? Are we winning the psychological war? Because it's all a psychological war. As I always say, like in this instance, it's good that it's happening in disarmed countries that don't have AR-15s falling out of the sky everywhere like we do. And I'm very concerned for how the U.S. convoy is going to go because, you know, if you get out of millions of people, if one of them has a horn that plays Dixie, or if one of them says "fuck you" to a communist, they're going to say we're overthrowing the United States government for the KKK and Albert Pike, uh, because that's how they operate. And I know that nobody believes that. I mean, I know there's people that believe it, but like, out of all the regular, blue collar, average people that I associate with, I don't know anybody that believes the idea that this country is overrun with white supremacists and Nazis. I don't know anybody like that. Because it's not true. But they've just been beating us over the head with this idea that, you know, anyone that opposes the Fourth Industrial Revolution and global fascism hates black people. And the reason they oppose global fascism is because they hate black people. And no, it doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't need to make sense. That's just their angle. And you know, I feel like in the near future, we're going to look back on this and we're going to think, man, I wish we were just back to fighting just tribalism. I wish it was just back to the good old days where we were being divided by group. Because what's coming next? What's coming next is going to be way worse. And that's not one of those like doomsday prepper, like I don't know. I don't want to call out anybody, but there are certain people who's like every video they're wearing a gas mask and it's every thumbnail is like a gas mask and like, you know, this is the no. I mean, I'm serious. Like what they have planned for us is unspeakable. No private property, no individual human rights. Collectivism. I mean, eventually they want to merge with machines and phase us all out. That's the plan. So, you know, I don't really have like a theme of this video other than to mention the poor woman being trampled with the horse and just kind of pontificate about this bullshit. But fuck, dude. Just open authoritarianism. As Americans, we basically have a authoritarian Klaus Schwab testing ground to the north, and then we have a narco state down south. And our vice president is going to Europe to help them deal with border issues. Oh man. Literally bringing in 18-wheeler loads of fentanyl and questionable chemical drugs from God knows where, all over the board. Just fucking human smuggling, human trafficking, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria, right here. Like 2.5 hours from my house, bro, is just the border and cartel and woohoo. And fucking Kamala Harris is going to Europe to help them solve their border issues. Isn't that cool? Anyway, I'm going to go get another cup of coffee. I hope everyone's enjoying not being in a gulag yet. Man, it's going to suck whenever they put us in gulags. But, you know, at least we'll get to be together. We'll get to congregate. Maybe we can have church service finally.